guys, Dandelion Song. So we're going to look at the word wisdom, also how it relates to this book that we're reading, or this chapter I'm showing you. I found something kind of new in here, so I wanted to film this before I forgot. So I've done this word before, but I haven't done it this way. So on the top, this is the symbol for the menorah gematria. On the top is the menorah gematria. And on the bottom, I did it over here for the simple gematria. Well, so the wisdom is made up of these words in this order, W-I-S, and in the simple gematria, the W and the I is a 923, which corresponds to the 911, which is the battle between ego and basically enlightenment, which is symbolized by the color white, and also in Alice in Wonderland by the idea of death, or the white queen. So it would be like seeing. So enlightenment is like, I think it actually says this in the Bible somewhere. So enlightenment is like when you cross over to the other shore before you have died, and you see life from the perspective of being crossed over. So you're no longer attached to the treadmill and the drama and the stories. You are aligned only with the infinite. Okay, well, the new thing that I found was in the menorah gematria. This is before 5 and 6. This is a counting up number. But I was looking at it a different way because they also use it as phonetically. So 4, 5, and 6. So this would be 4, as in the word 4, 5, 6. And from another decode that I did recently, where Prince has the 5-6 ratio, and the 5-6 ratio is important because 6, 5 times 5 squared approximates pi, and that is the relationship of the people who worship these numbers. Care about this equation because to them it's symbolically the relationship between destiny and free will, the creative power of man. Well, so the creative power would have something to do with this last number, which is, so we have 4, 5, 6. Now this number, this ratio, it's having, for me, what it means is it's like having a foot in both lands. It's having the flexibility to balance this equation between destiny, perfect divine destiny, and free will. That means you're basically aligned in a holy way, because pi represents holiness. So you are aligned to destiny in a holy way. That's what this means. And so that's the idea of Prince. That means somebody who's aligned to destiny in a holy way. Well, of course, doesn't mean that anymore, but that was the intention originally, I believe, from studying the numbers. I've drawn this out. Well, dome is the place where we live, like a kingdom, and then there's freedom, and it's a place. And so 21, the Om, is a creation number. It's the 21st prime is 73, which is the second half of the star matrix number, 3773, 1221. And 1221 is the 12. There'd be a few ways to write it. You could back engineer it in the menorah gematria, but the 1221 is like the alpha and omega of the primes of creation, because the star matrix idea of creation is 3773, and the primes, 37 is the 12th prime, 73 is the 21st prime. Now, if you add those two primes together, you get the master, which is 33. So that's why this number is important. It's important to understand how the numbers break down, so you can understand what these words really mean, what the secret meaning of them is. Well, so here, this word, it looks like I haven't done it. I haven't looked at it this way before, but Wiz is for the balance. The balance, I guess you would say, of the role of the individual for the creation. And this is the end part of the creation. The beginning part would be 12. So this is for the final creation. This is for the final outcome. Very interesting that this word can be traced to this. Wisdom is for the balance having to do or for the final outcome of creation. Are you amazed? I was kind of amazed. Okay, now this one's a little bit of a mess. I tried to do a hieroglyph. Well, this is the simple gematria. So this very center of this in the core, if you want to do a core valence analysis of this word, the S and the D makes up a 23, which I am now taking to be the journey, the sacred journey, starting from the bottom, going to the top, because the bottom is 22. That's Ham, that's Abraham and Buckingham, and going to the top, which will be 33. So in the center of that, between 22 and 23, which adds to 55, in the center, one step in from each of that is 23 and 32. And we see this mirror right here, because 32 is also the first half of this, because you have in the center, you have the journey, 23. W also equals the journey, and I want you to notice the shape, because the shape has to do with these uplifted arms. This Wayne Herschel has a name for this, and I don't know if it's the right name or not, but in my intro and my outro, I have pictures of Pleiadians. A lot of people with their arms up like this. This is one arm, this is another arm as a head. Sorry, it's a bad drawing. Well, that's the shape of the W, and it's also the shape of the 7 stars, the 7 sisters of the Pleiades in the star map of Egypt, which is the leg of the bull in the shape of the W. So that also has to do with the journey. Well, when you add the ego to it, the journey plus the ego, it gets you to the 32, which is the last step before enlightenment, which would be 33. This is also the last step of being frozen before you thaw at 33. So do you see that the ego needs to walk you from here to there, from 23 to 32? The ego needs to walk you there. So a lot of people wonder, they think about animals or plants or something as something that's egoless. You're not supposed to be egoless. You're supposed to, your ego is your companion through this. It's a dangerous part of the journey, through this dangerous part of the journey. And then you find out whether your ego destroyed you or whether you had balance, whether you had wisdom, where you balance the ego with holiness and divine creation. So when you add ego to the journey, you get 32, which is the last step before enlightenment. Very interesting, because that's the first half of this word. And it's very interesting that this word basically talks about the journey in the same way that this one talks about the balance. See, the menorah and the simple. All right, well, if you just add... Okay, so if you take the S and the D together in the center, this side would be the 32, and this side would be the 28, which is Om. This is the full rotation of the outer part of the sun. This is the Om creation. Now we saw that Om over here is the final star matrix prime number in the menorah gematria. So we can use this to understand this. Om over here is the full rotation of the sun. Over 28 days, the sun gives you a full rotation of magnetic particles, which assists you in your evolution. And we're all in this together, so we all pretty much, depending on where you live, you get a different dose of what the sun's doing. The sun is divine creation. It doesn't mean that it's God, and if you understand that it's divine creation, that doesn't mean you're worshiping it. If you understand that a rose or a flower or a wild tree is divine creation, that doesn't mean you're worshiping it. Okay. So 32 plus 28 is 60. We see the 60 number a lot, and in this instance, since it divides perfectly by 2, and we have 2 syllables in this word, we would divide it by 2, so you would have 2 aspects of what I would say would be the trinity of suns. And I'll draw the upper. This is the trinity of suns. This is the star of Ra. This is the star where the Pleiades are next to. And this is another star. I can't remember its name, but these are all suns. I believe that we are a DNA library of multiple species from these suns, basically. We have the Pleiades. We have one of these is probably Orion. I know is somewhere else. It's over here. It points to the Pleiades. So I don't know exactly what Orion has to do with this yet, but maybe it was the origin of one of these. Okay, well, this is also the Bible, Alice, and Eagle, and Hail, which are all very important symbols in our culture. And so you want to think of that. Well, so this the wisdom. So this would be for the first half, the 32. This would be the trinity of suns. This type of creation during the journey from the 23 to the 32, during the journey of the ego, right here. On this side, it's more referring to the divine passage of time, you could say, like the divine clock. Okay, so anyway, you would add the 60 plus the 23, and that would be an 83, which again equals an 11. So that is the perspective. This is the ultimate perspective, the perspective from having died before you die. That idea. And then I did this hieroglyph. This is the W on top, and this is the M. And I did the, so in the center you would have the S in the dome. So the dome would be the I cosmology. So the S is in the dome. And then in the dome, you have the four corners of the earth, and that's why the D is a 4. The four corners of the earth. Then you have a central map. That's the O represents that. And then you have the ego with S, which is Ra. So Ra is the first creation after the 4 sounds of the Yogdoad, the Ankh. This is why they named Ankara, is because of the Ankh, the 4 sounds of the Yogdoad. And I think they're saying, and from having Orion and Ankara, I think they're saying that Orion is, you know, it's like Osiris. It's like the first creation, or the Egyptian Adam kind of idea. All right, well then, if you add a W to this, then you would add like the upward hands here that would make the W. And then I was trying to figure out where the M would go, because the M is Adam and Eve, which is different from Ra. And the 2 sacred mountains, the twin peaks. So it's kind of like the place. So probably the place to draw it would be inside on this map of the O. So I didn't get all the proportions right, but that's how this hieroglyph would go. All right, well, that is the word wisdom. All right, talk to you later.